Welcome to the Dropout Drop-In on a very chaotic starting point. It's just Jordan and Liz this week. But you know what, Jordan, I like doing these episodes just you and I because it means that we get to get into the weeds of all the chaotic things that we bicker about on the internet.
Yes.
Including how you're public enemy number one for Dimension 20 fans who have to wait until Wednesdays to get the episode. Do you want to fill us in on how the hell you're getting Dimension 20 before the rest of us?
Look, I'm just very important. That's not true. I can't exactly explain it. But yes, last week I got the episode on Tuesday. I was so grateful since it was a 3-hour and 9-minute long episode. I was like, oh, good. Now I will have watched it by Wednesday night when other people have seen it. So, because look, I am very grateful for the spot that I am in and all of that. Sometimes people DM me spoilers, and I don't think they do it intentionally. I think they're so excited and they're like, well, Jordan must have seen it already, and oftentimes I haven't.
Oftentimes we forget Jordan is an adult with a job who has to wait like the rest of us,
and a very small child. So I got to watch that episode last week early. It was very funny because it was the first time, because I get the episodes early. I have this week's episode already as well, so that is why Liz is mad at me today. But I got and this week as well. Like normally the episode is just like, hey, please don't forward this email, blah blah, like the normal, like you have 3 days to watch it once you hit play, etc. But last week's it was literally like, hey, please don't share the moment that you're going to know that you shouldn't share until I think it was like 10 p.m. Eastern time, and I was like, that's fully like an hour after the episode will have wrapped. Other people will be talking about it on the internet before I'm allowed to. So I was like, that's fine. Instead I just made a TikTok where I was like, hey, once you see it, you can comment it here because you're gonna want to scream about it.
Which I did see not long after you posted that video, and for those that don't follow my traveling adventures, which are always posted live in real time on Instagram, I spent all of last week in the sky is not really an understatement. I was at 30,000 feet more than I was on the ground last week, and Jordan had the very helpful friend-to-friend message of, you should not start the episode unless you can finish it in one sitting, and I took that as a threat because I could not do that. So I watched the episode. I started Wednesday night after your embargo window would have been up, so I just completely stopped going on social, fell asleep during the episode, woke up to the dome having turned red, which obviously that was a reveal moment, but I was like, no. I'm trying to pause the TV because I realized I'd fallen asleep. I had no idea where I was. On a plane the next morning with no Wi-Fi, realized the episode had not downloaded.
Oof.
Horrifying. Downloaded it in a car backstage at my panel I was doing. I was watching it, looking at a nice little pond, did the panel, got to the airport, finished it in the airport, got the Adventure Marine Party done on the flight home. So it was the worst Dimension 20 viewing experience that I have ever had. It was so chaotic. Of all the weeks to not be able to watch it in one sitting, but I appreciated the heads up from you regardless.
Yeah, I think you could have watched it in multiple parts, but it's weird because there is a certain point, once they hit the Mountains of Chaos, you're gonna want to watch the rest of it. And so it's weird to be like, you could probably watch the first hour probably without needing to watch the whole episode, but you can't tell people you're good for the first hour, especially when Dropout's 100%. Been real specific about not talking about it. So it's just 100%. Hey, don't start unless you can finish.
Don't start unless you're confident that you're good with cliffhangers, which you know me, I cannot handle a suspense of cliffhanger. Save my life. So,
and speaking of living in the skies, this week's episode, folks,
for real, we are literally taking the ship to the skies in this week's episode of Dimension 20. But you know what, Jordan? Let's back up. Let's talk about everything else happening with Dropout, because the news, the headlines this week are all over the place, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Seacaster Manor in about 20 minutes. So let's back up and talk Dropout and all the shit they keep throwing at us, because it feels like I actually am glad that we record on Mondays, but I feel like every Monday they're like, and here is something new that nobody knows, and here is a new thing that we haven't told anyone, and here's a new thing for you to think about, and then we get on here not long after and get to say our thoughts fresh. So there was an announcement made not even an hour ago, I think, that was kind of soft launched in the Discord, that the Discord will be no more. So
Yeah.
fill us in. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I think for a bunch of reasons laid out pretty clearly and cogently in the Discord by Andrew Bridgman, the Discord is fully going away, and I think at the end of the month, basically. And it feels to me like when NPR got rid of comments on their website, when they were like, look, the same people are the ones who comment. So, like, we're not going to moderate this anymore because it's just the same people over and over again. That felt, a lot of the message felt like that there's like 1,000 really active people in the Discord. I think the Discord has well over 100,000 members, but like 1,000 really active people. And that is too much for the number of moderators they currently have, and too little to hire full-time moderators for like a 24/7 moderation, which I think is understandable. I think there are some other concerns about, like moderating your own fan space of, like, I mean, we're probably 8 months ago, they shut down the Ask Sam channel on the Discord, which I think was the correct decision. Like, you should not be able to just freely ask the CEO of the company questions whenever you feel like it. Like, there needs to be, I think you messaged me of like a traditional media company, like, not structure, but like that idea of like, it's not that Sam needs to be mysterious and unavailable, but like, people not everyone should just be able to be like, Sam, what is like your
Right.
thoughts on this? Like, it's too much access to someone who is running, I mean, we're talking mid 6-figure streaming service at this point, maybe high 6-figure. I don't know what their numbers are at, but growing every day.
1,000%. You said it perfectly, and I think like when you look at Dropout, now I'm not even putting it on the producer hat. This is like corporate girl Liz hat is on, like thinking in terms of growing and scaling the business. There's not a world that we have seen where an entity is competing for Emmys and trying to put themselves to the bar and caliber of that kind of content. Put my hand in the screen where I know it's going to make the edit. And also, you're managing a self-fulfilling, isolated fan space. At this point in the game, the advantage of having active fan communities is to work cyclically to create more fans. And when you endorse behavior where that happens behind closed doors, like on a Discord, you're not reaping any of the benefits of that fan community. So it's also very smart for Dropout to say, this chapter is done, go create your own fan spaces on public-facing websites with algorithms that will attract in like-minded people to you that might convert more subscribers. Because ultimately, they're still in that space of the conversation is good and we love it, but like, let's use the Fantasy High Junior Year tag on Twitter. Like, let's go to Tumblr and have like reposts and comments and Q&As on like a public-facing page where more people can see it and be bought into it. Even like, to credit you, spaces like your TikTok comments where like your video doesn't just go to Dropout fans, it goes to lots of people that might have interest, and then your comments become the same kind of conversation you see on the Discord or on the Reddit, but just on a TikTok public forum, and then that converts more people and gets more people engaged. So I think it's the obvious move for Dropout to say like, listen, you 1,000 people that are here all the time, go do this where other people will see it and be able to contribute with you, and in turn help these shows like funnel more like free advertising on the internet. And like a great example of this is the 911 community, like 911 Twitter.
Oh my God. 911 everything.
Crazy. And like the more you see fans talk about like Buddy and like Eddie and like the writing, like the more you're bought in, like, oh, what the hell is happening with that? Like what do you mean, Buddy? Like what do you mean it's been this many seasons? Like what do you mean Angela Bassett's leading like this show in this way? Like you have all this crossover between Lone Star and the main like 911 entity, and then the fan communities, and yeah. So it's just like, that's a great example of like, if that was all happening in a Discord, it'd be great because all the fan theories and stuff would collect and you could track it, but it doesn't do anything to grow the show. And in fact, a show like 911 has benefited so much from having it all in a public forum. So I hope that the people that are that engaged do take the conversation somewhere else, whether it's like X or Twitter or whatever you call it, or it's Tumblr or it's Threads or Instagram, whatever. and help more people like discover that way.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah, I feel bad for the folk. I'm sure people are very upset. I didn't wade in because I wasn't active in the Discord. It's too big for me to manage. But yeah, I did see at some point someone posted a screenshot and they were like, it was like messages sent. It was like 20 minutes and it was 435 new messages, and I was like, okay, so people are upset. Yeah, I mean, I think a good opportunity for folks to get active elsewhere talking about Dropout and, create your own Discord and, like, build your own fan communities. Like, that's also...
Own podcast. Like, we've got the Dropout Drop, and you can hang out with us in our comments if you'd like. But
yes.
I hope this spawns more for Dropout that will help the entire ecosystem of their shows benefit, especially because their ecosystem is now trying to harvest their viewers into now 3 new properties launching in 2024. And as Jordan rightfully corrected me off air, if you include Very Important People, which launched in December, if you consider that a 2024 property, we have 3 live and we have 1 newly announced on the way. What do you know about Dropout Presents, which was very much just like dropped like a little...
left off of all of the schedule information, and I wouldn't have known had you not sent me the screenshot. Because I think even in the newsletter, they're like, oh, also, there's a trailer coming for something, and they didn't specify what it was. But yeah, Dropout Presents is the one instance where they just fully tried to not be clever with their name. That may be overstating it, but like they just were like, what is this? This is Dropout Presents and then a thing, and they're like, all right, well, let's just call it Dropout Presents. And it's the only one that I've been even mildly close on in my guess as to what the show was. But yeah, so it's straight up comedy specials, whether that's improv or stand-up or I'm assuming like sketch, maybe. I shouldn't say that because that's going to make people think of like college humor stuff. It's not that. But like, yeah, like I know Chris Grace's special will be there. I know Adam Conover filmed a special for it. Bigger with Brennan and Izzy. The Big Team with it's Iffy and his improv group. I know From Alley to Zachy, which is just a slew of Dropout people doing improv. But yeah, seems to be a way for them to grab a lot of their talent that's doing a lot of really cool shows at stuff in LA, film that, and put it on Dropout. An easy lift. But also, I did talk to Sam about it, and it's a lot unlike a lot of like Netflix specials where Netflix is like, yeah, we'd love it, go do it, and then when you're done, come bring it to us. Dropout did all of the work for it, did like cameras, setting up, like all of that stuff. Like that is Dropout producing everything. It is not like Bigger is not producing this and then sold it to Dropout. Dropout bought in and produced it for them, which is, I think, another great example of Dropout doing good work.
So now I'm gonna put my producer hat on, which once again, I swear to God, I'm not doing the bit. I genuinely don't know where this hat goes every week. I'm gonna like put a reminder in my phone so I have it next week. That is the major distinction here that I think when you think of the story of these specials, when you think of the story of what Dropout's trying to do as a talent incubator, streamers give green light, funding, the promise of marketing and PR. If you're someone like John Mulaney, who's, as we're recording on Monday tonight, he's premiering his new kind of variety special live every Monday. You get the promise of like, we will market this, we will give you prominent placement in the algorithm, and when you log into Netflix on that like main banner and in your main like recommended strip, that is one way of retaining and producing content. It does not open doors for people that do not have budget to produce on their own, to market on their own, to sustain a show, to hire cam ops, to like raise the production quality from something that you might do at Fringe Fest to what you can do for a special that's going to live on the internet forever, that you might want to have compete for comedy awards, for Emmys, for Golden Globes, like whatever. Oh, my camera's going out of focus, whatever you want. So Dropouts not only offering a different competitive edge, they're also narrowing the gap for people that like don't have access to funding, aren't big enough to pitch to a Netflix or to a Prime Video or whoever who's trying to source talent, and who might not have their own crews or might need investment in the show to say like, hey, like, I think this show would be funnier with 3 cameras. I only have 1 cam op with me. Like, how do we scale that? Or like, hey, I think the show would be funnier in a theater with this kind of lighting system or with this kind of stage direction versus when I did it at this festival, I only had access to this. So you're looking at like scaling from the medium scale versus Netflix is like, you go do it and bring it to us and we will promise you the opposite end of the equation will be handled. Like, a lot of people can't even get there. So big ol' Fallout style thumbs up from me. I think it's really great. I also, when you think about the competitive edge of Dropout going into Emmys, it's another piece in the puzzle for them in terms of being able to compete in those like variety special, comedy special, not in game show, like what Game Changer is going to be competing in. Yeah. So it's like another coin for them when they're submitting across comedy categories. They actually will have these stand-up specials that can go up against like Baby. I'm just thinking about John Mulaney because the show's tonight. Like, right. Go up against a Baby J. Or
Everybody's in LA is all we're thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. When is he going to be on Dropout? He'd be great on Dropout. But anyway. He signed to Netflix. They're not going to let him go to Dropout for a hot minute.
I was going to say Dropout can't afford him, but...
Oh, the other thing I wanted to say with Dropout Presents is, in terms of, this is really like Liz getting into producer lore land, I've been thinking a lot about how Dropout needs to start tiering their content differently. Because they're adding so many new shows to our plates as viewers, it's like very flat at the moment. Like right now, you know, you have like a breaking news which comes in and it's like, quote unquote, rough. Don't get in the comments and correct me here. Just play the game with me. Like an under 10-minute kind of thing. It feels more like watching YouTube versus watching a Netflix style show streamer. Then you have something like a Dimension 20, which could be anywhere from an hour 50 to like 5 hours long if you're thinking like Critical Role scale, right? Like we could really be all over the board. And it feels more like the investment of sitting down and watching a movie or like a long form or like a limited series, right? Now we're getting Dropout Presents, which is not either of those things. So to us as viewers, how do we consider this content stacking against each other? I think it's going to be so important with Dropout Presents to see, like, are they going to stagger it on a bi-weekly? Are they, I think they didn't announce the slotting for this one in like their weekly schedule, but we're going to talk about we're going to talk about Thousandaires in a second. We know that's like a Friday release, right? So that's a different way of tiering content in a weekly schedule versus a Tuesday night actually, which is very much taking a note from like, you sit down on a Tuesday and you watch Jeopardy. No, you sit down on a Tuesday and you watch actually. You sit down on a Monday, you watch a Game Changer. You're tiered like Thursday night when you're picking between going to the movie theater and sitting at home and watching something. What is Dropout giving you in that block? Has to be meatier or has to be different. So I'm excited to see with Dropout Presents, like, how are they going to continue like tiering out this content and feeding it to us to distinct, like, we're creating this kind of style content that we want you to have in this way versus something that's like shorter or like more bite-sized or more casual viewing that you can have in a different way.
Yeah, I'm also really curious how much, like, we're going to be getting Dimension 20 live shows very soon. Like, there's going to be like, obviously they've had those in the past, but the size of the audience is so different now. I'm really curious how they're going to, like, is that a show that just, they're like, this came out, like, we dropped it in the middle of a day on a Wednesday or whatever, is it going to be it's an off week for Dimension 20 because we're between seasons, so here's, 2 live shows. Like, how is that programming going to fit into there? Now, what's becoming a very big, like a very packed schedule. Like, I'm wondering, does Dropout Presents become their first Saturday show? Where in the week does this fall in terms of, presumably roughly an hour of comedy. We're talking longer shows than what we're getting on most nights for Dropout.
It's gonna be really interesting to watch audience habits change. Like this Discord piece is an indicator that like the audience to Dropout relationship is like drastically changing, right? And then you have these thoughts of like, currently we are all on one rotation. We get one lineup of what's coming out this week. Watch what you want or don't want. People like us are watching every single day. We're watching every new piece of content to see what's happening. Is it going to get to a point where they start segmenting their own audience to say, like, it's not one schedule, it's actually 4? Like, we have all these things happening. We have 15 to 20 new things dropping every week. Even if they had like between 8 and 15 things dropping a week, that would be almost double what they're doing right now, or exactly double what they're doing right now. And in a world like that, are they segmenting, like, we're assuming Dimension 20 fans will follow this path versus a Game Changer fan is following this other path?
Well, we know Dropout has 17 shows currently in some level of production. Per TJ Dumpster, the sound mixer, he believes that all of Dimension 20 counts as one. So it is not like 10 shows and 7 seasons of Dimension 20 that they're currently building or whatever, right? So it is 17 shows that are in some level of production. Obviously, like, Very Important People season 2 is spinning up. I know they're talking about like cast and like design. But yeah, there's a lot happening at Dropout, and it's very exciting, but it's very interesting to, like, they've had such a very specific formula for when content dropped. Like, how does that change as they get so many shows that, like, that, you know, like, is it literally just like, all right, Mondays are Game Changer and Thousandaires? I know it's not, but then like Tuesdays are Actually, Breaking News, and Smarty Pants, and Wednesdays always Dimension 20. Thursdays are Dropout Presents and whatever, right? Like there's just like they're like, we're just gonna divide up our week into like Thursdays are Gastronauts and, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
We're competing with Top Chef now. That's our Thursday night programming.
I love thinking like this. Like, that would be such an interesting world to live in, right? Because then you would maybe see people get more segmented into like, Monday is my night, Wednesday is my night, Thursday is my night. So, or you split it entirely and you say, hey, if we're stacking Breaking News and Actually in Smarty Pants, you spread that over 3 days to make sure people are tuning in all 3 days. And maybe they stick around for Gastronauts, or they stick around for Dimension 20. And then you're in a cable model, people. Then we're talking cable television 101. So, you know what? Why don't we just talk about what the new show is? Because Thousandaires had the trailer drop last week. And Jordan, I don't want to speak for you, but I do feel like it's different than what both of us predicted the show was going to be.
Yeah, 100%. I was not even close.
Not even close. So what was your initial prediction for this?
That they were going to be winning money. I guess technically that is true. I do believe the host of the show gives $1,000 to whoever wins, right? But I thought it was going to be like a game show-esque Total Forgiveness style, where you're coming in trying to pay down debts or something. I was so far off. I
thought it was going to be like mid-budget Price is Right. Like, everything in the thousands of dollars range, and like you're bidding on like in the thousands or hundreds of dollars, so you become a thousandaire by the end of it, versus what we got, which was a very delightful, I did a little video on this, I know you did a couple videos on this as well, but this is really a show that rewards the talent incubation that Dropout prioritizes, because you could not do a show like this if people weren't genuinely friends and genuinely had relationships. Yeah. Imagine how awkward this concept would be if you didn't know anyone else in the room.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I talked to BDG about this, about, you know, the idea of parasocial, like our parasocial relationship with Dropout, and what he had talked about was that what Dropout does differently, and I don't know if he was thinking about this show at the time, I mean, he doesn't appear to be in this season, but, you know, that they do differently is their focus is not like one-on-one, like I'm like my focus of like, I created a TikTok video, I need you, the viewer, to engage with my TikTok video. Their focus is the people in those rooms, like the Dirty Laundry. Also shout out that is coming back. They're currently in production for that. But like,
God, sorry, continue.
But yes, like, you know, like Dirty Laundry couch, right? Like they're building relationships with the people on those couches. And now obviously Thousandaires, we're seeing a culmination of that, of like, we've made, not that they weren't friends beforehand, but like we've made them closer friends through work. And now spend some money on your friends.
And pairing the couches to understand, like, I don't know exactly how the show came together. You're probably going to be the one to figure all this out. But understanding, like, when we pair Mike, Trapp, and Grant, that, like, it becomes an equation that you know every variable for at this point for Dropout. Like, you're not... It's the same as, like, formulating the Game Changer podiums, which we hear about in the after episodes every week. But a show like this so requires that formula to be validated on multiple fronts. You need to run equations of every possible couch to have the best possible outcome to what you know everyone's spending their money on.
The Lisa one actually makes me curious because Lisa does the time machine and someone comes out appearing to wear Vic's clothes, but is just like an older version of Vic. And I'm curious, like, obviously you had to have like some knowledge of who was going to be on your couch to like get the clothes, whether that's, you know, someone behind the scenes helping produce the show. But yeah, I'm super, super curious. So what a fun idea. Spend $1,000 to delight your friends. Like, it's
so great.
Yeah, it's Smarty Pants with a budget, basically, right? Like, it's we're here to delight and entertain your friends, but this time you have $1,000 to spend it. I'm also super curious if the Katie billboard is going to factor into this episode.
It has to. It has to, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I feel like that's the Easter egg we're really following on the show is what show is going to give us Katie's billboard. Because I'm not buying it more than I'm not buying the Sam Dalton theories that are currently all over the internet. Like, I'm more in the trenches for this Katie billboard thing than that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Smarty Pants, a little bit of Smarty Pants chitter chatter.
Ooh.
I know you had some things you wanted to spill.
Yeah, so I got talked with Paul Robolino, showrunner for Smarty Pants, last week. Basically, from what I understand, is it was 3 days of filming, and basically every single person that we saw will present at some point. And there are 3 different groups. So like we got our 3 people from last week, and then Thursday night, that's when the show airs. Thursday night, we'll get 3 people from day 2, let's call it. And then 2 weeks later, we'll get 3 people from day 3, and then it will rotate back to day 1. So we'll see 3 different groups of folks, and then like the various presentations as we bounce through them.
What a friggin' smart production schedule to get so much content out of. It's unbelievable to my brain. Like, that was like a cheap ass show to produce for the amount of quality content you're getting on the other side.
Yeah, just get to like bounce people around in the chairs, but like then you can get 3 presentations that either match in tone or idea, whatever it is. Like, you can like pick 3 that like it doesn't matter that people have moved around because all of that works. I will also say that Paul mentioned very specifically Katie's is one of his favorite presentations of the entire series, which we get this week. Something about eggs. I don't remember that eggs are the perfect food. I don't remember what the concept was, but I know eggs was
related presentations this season. I'm into it. Excellent. Yeah.
Also, shout out to CNN for fully just grabbing Vic's presentation that vegetables aren't real, running it this past Sunday, and giving no credit to Smarty Pants. We see you, CNN. We know what you're up to.
Very important people with Ross and Rashawn, which we were both very excited about, 2 of our faves. I didn't expect the youth pastor angle to...
So good. So good.
Oh, good.
The, like, transition of, like... the Dark Lord to if you're hanging over the abyss, you can still have an attitude of gratitude. Like, so good. Also, hugest shout out to, I believe it's Stony Blyden, who composed the music both for this episode and the Princess Emily episode. Oh, the songs are so good.
Songs slap. I would like a mixtape to put in my car immediately of all the songs from this series. We talk a lot about the like catches that Vic does, but there was a catch that Rashawn made this episode that made me like fall out of my chair, more accurately off my couch, when Rashawn and Vic are going back and forth about how much money it costs to send the kids to the equator, and Rashawn added the layer of like, of course, in like the worshippers of the demon goat whatever, I would be a millionaire who does not want to use my own money to send the kids on the equator trip. Like, I thought that quickness was so... like, you watched it snap on Rashawn's face, like, oh no, of course I'm a millionaire that is not going to use my own money for this. Genius.
So
Genius work.
Yeah. There were so many of those, like, bounce back moments. It was Ross's attitude of gratitude. I love how quickly Ross is ready to drop into a monologue, just like full Brennan style any moment. And... like, so, like, he does, like, that full monologue, and then Rashawn jumps in with, like, you gotta wear deodorant. So good. But yeah, and, like, shout out to Vic, the evilest bird you can think of, chicken. Just, like, the speed at which they dropped chicken, so fantastic.
So fantastic. And I think Vic's commitment to sweetness and being like, oh, bake sale, like, tell me more about that. Like, really trying to take the tone of, like, sweet as Sugar host Vic to counterbalance or try and bring that out in like the Servants of the Dark Lord style, whatever they had going on. So, so good.
Also, we simply must talk about that Bianca and Vic are the same age. What a twist I did not see coming. Absolutely delighted to no end that Bianca is 30-ish. So funny. Oh man, that tickled me to like I was just like my brain just stopped working for a full minute when Vic was like, Bianca, like my stepdaughter is the same age as me. Such a funny layer. I can't wait for what are we, a week and a half out from the Brennan finale, because I know like we're getting the most host Vic info, and for sure that's gonna be the like that's got to be like the narrative thread, right? That Vic's husband is way older than them. They have this stepdaughter that's the same age. Like it's gotta all come to a head, and that like. Ooh, I'm excited about it.
I thought of your interview with Tamar when I was watching for that exact reason, because you had said in the interview, but also previously on here on the Dropout Drop-In, that the pacing of Vic's lore drops was very intentional, because the order that we're receiving the episodes in is not consistent with the order in which they filmed it.
Yeah.
The fact that they're pacing the lore drops like this, and they waited until this episode to do the drop that Bianca's the same age as Vic.
Yeah.
I immediately snapped into, oh, this is like the big piece that they've been hooking us with the whole time.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yep. So good. Shout out to Tamar and Eve, like director and editor, just like brilliantly deciding this whole season.
I want to know by the end of this what the initial order they shot it in was, and then watch it in shot order versus release order to see how I think watching it in that way will really show how well Vic also bounces from episode to episode without knowing what the final overarching story would be, and just trying to pitch as much as you could into it to become something by the end. Very smart.
Yeah, I know they worked a lot on host Vic's backstory going into it, so it may have all been already there, and Vic was just waiting for moments to be able to like pepper in some details. I have no idea how much of host Vic backstory was improvised and how much was like this is a thing that we knew going in. But yeah, I mean, man, I don't know if I could give you the exact order. Obviously, Zach Oyama is last. That one's the easy one. I know Brennan shot right before Izzy because Brennan was still on set after Izzy, and Allie was then after Izzy because they had to cut Brennan's wig down to make Allie's pig wig because Allie didn't have the same hair as they expected, which... Yeah,
the green hair.
Yeah. So.
Oh my god, working in show business and dyeing your hair green is such a choice.
It's such an Allie move.
Speaking of Allie moves, there's our segue into D20.
Seamless.
We wanted to spend this episode talking about Dimension 20. And what we got was the biggest lore drop of all lore drops. And I feel like, I'm saying this, having seen none of the next episodes, I'm making an assumption, just like everyone else watching this before D20 drops this week. I think that the next...
only 32 minutes into it.
You're still 32 minutes ahead of the cultural zeitgeist, Jordan. But you know what? I'll take it. I feel like this next episode is really the beginning of the finale arc, right? Like we have this week plus 2 more episodes, and obviously the finale is going to be like the longest like stretch to get to that final note. So considering that what's ahead of us is the finale arc, let's look at this week and talk about the story of Dimension 20 Fantasy High junior year up until this point.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I mean, look, Brennan has been calling himself a bit janitor on Worlds Beyond Number for a while. I didn't realize how good of a bit janitor he is, because he took Emily's bit that Porter is evil when Porter and Jace were just throwaway characters in Fantasy High Season 1. And Brennan was like, well, the funniest thing to do would be is if Porter is in fact evil and has been the whole time, but I put Porter and Jace together, so now they both have to be evil. And then like building that from like Fantasy High freshman year into sophomore year, where we got that reveal of like, all right, now we're actually going to lay the groundwork. I guess 3 years ago when they filmed it, but 4 years ago for us, of like, we're going to lay the groundwork of Porter's doing something weird that he shouldn't be able to do, and then I'm going to sit on that reveal and like drop it at the perfect moment, like a nat 20 investigation. Like everything just like beautifully comes together. Like
So good. And the fact that they technically could have potentially gotten to the point where they piece it together sooner.
yeah.
No, and they had that big animation obviously ready to go from the beginning of shooting. Like you would have had to have had that prepped forever, right? So the fact that it did not come until this episode, which is at the perfect point of the season for the drop to happen, it's part of it is kudos to Brennan's pacing of the story and being able to like have enough side things happening and other mysteries to solve to like push it until this moment. But it really just was the perfect moment for the lore to be revealed to get us into the finale arc, headed into the Seacaster Manor battle that we're going to see this week. Just brilliant. Yeah. And the other piece that I saw over the past 2 episodes that I've been waiting to talk about with you is how much the physical improv has like been built up over the past 2 weeks with like straight Kristen and like Atlee Beardsley physically inhabiting straight Kristen and like doing the crossbow scene with Lou beside them. And it's just, you also had the incredible passing the blunt around moment and passing the drinks around with the rogue teacher. And I thought that was like one of the first times we had seen the Intrepid Heroes include Brennan in a physical bit the way they did, because they were passing it directly around to Brennan and back, and it felt like a real, like, you saw the talent of this cast, not just within the Dimension 20 lore, but like as performers and improvisers. It felt like such a yes and moment at the table. It was so tasty to watch. So anything on that end you want to shout out?
I can transition us into then something beautifully, because a huge shout out, and God, I wish I remembered who did it, but someone put together an what you say edit where like it's Lou and Allie like clutched together with like Allie holding the crossbow. Brilliant edit. Incredible work.
Can someone actually genuinely tell me what the fuck prompted Brennan to do this janky rendition of what you say? So good. No, so you got the reference when he said it, right? You understood.
Look, one of the things I love more than anything in this world is the Lonely Island sketch parodying the OC's absurdity, where every time a gun goes off, it goes, what you say? Yeah, an iconic moment of internet history. Just,
We've collected a lot of memes from over the past week. We have some comments from Jordan's comment section. And there's a lot in here about how Emily is fantastic. Emily, actually, I never doubted you for a second. I feel like this was a big week for Emily truthers, the people that believe that Emily is one of the best Dimension 20 players, if not one of the best D&D players in the world.
In this house, we believe in Axford supremacy, and we were just proven right once again.
It's true. I'm so excited to see Emily in person.
Also, a huge shout out. It was this week's adventuring party where Emily did the every time I multiclass, people like, wah, wah, wah. Just like absolutely drag those haters for filth, Emily, as you should.
Drag them. My only complaint about this week's episode of Dimension 20 was I could have used a few more cuts to Murph. Like, I understand they were trying to stay in the moment with like Fig as a character, but I could have used just like a little corner side cam of like what reactions were happening, because there was so much good coming from Fig and Emily's performance. But that's just a side note. That's just a personal thing I would have liked to have seen. Let's jump into your comment section. Let's get in the comments here. I already watched it. Way to rub it in, Jordan.
Look, I stand by it.
You know what? Hold your truth. Hold your ground. I respect that. I screamed, I knew Fig was right, so loud. Yeah, same. Did you catch on to Porter being the big bad?
Nope, not a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I really did think that Porter was up to no good, especially when he was treating Gorgug differently than Fig. My spidey senses went up a little bit, so I wasn't super surprised by the reveal, but it caught you.
Yeah, I should have learned from Brennan by now that sometimes when you introduce someone who is bad, outwardly they are in fact bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't learn my lesson from freshman year when Calvaxis turned out to be the bad guy, and you're like, oh yeah, he's like, sometimes the bad guy is the bad guy. And for whatever reason, I was just like, no, Porter's mean, but that means he's not the bad guy.
Right?
Like, yeah.
It's very funny levels of like you're trying to find a big conspiracy, but it's right in front of your nose, right? It's really smart about this season. Okay, speaking of Brennan when he's the victim of an evil plan, Brennan when he is the perpetrator of an evil plan.
Oh, the smuggest we've ever seen Brennan. Just so proud of himself, as he should have been. But like, oh, and shout out to Derek and Ruby, the projectionists. A perfect like use of the dome. A pluses all around.
It's so great. And every week I watch this dome in action and think to myself from a production standpoint how many hours it takes to get those projections just right.
Oh yeah, especially this one, like an actual human being on there, and you don't want like Brennan's face weirdly distorted in spots. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like pixel for pixel effort, and everyone get a little clap from Liz and Jordan for the projections. Okay, back into your comments. Good for Fig. I love when it pays off. Bless Emily Axford. Brennan plotted for 5 years. Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, just absolutely, yeah. It's the bit janitor. He saw that it's Loose Duke all over again, but with a 5-year plan.
That's a question that I would love to ask Izzy if I ever had the chance to talk to Izzy. Is like, how much Fantasy High lore have you been subjected to? Because Brennan can't talk to anyone about it. Like, do you think Brennan would go home and be like, they haven't figured it out? Like, I would just love to be a fly in the wall for how many, in the safety of our home conversations, Brennan had to have to deal with the fact that he could not reveal it to the Intrepid Heroes cast.
I mean, I feel like Brennan just like keeps it all locked away, but yeah, maybe he has the joy of being able to tell Izzy about it.
Could you imagine if Izzy just knew all the Fantasy High lore? Like, yeah. I knew it was Porter the whole time. I would not blame him if he had to spill it to someone, because I could not keep the secret for 5 years. I would be.
Well, shout out to, the art team knew it, because for obvious reasons, but shout out to Jesse Heron. I posted a video about this. The desks in The Last Stand had graffiti on them, and I got distracted by the desk that had R plus B on it. Yes, here's my wide-eyed excitement, because that desk that you can see behind me has blank blank R Porter blank ER in Hangman. So just letting us know that Porter was in fact the bad guy. Just beautiful work, Jesse.
What a drop that would have been if they had figured it out during The Last Stand. That would have been, and then the figure appears to get the body. Oh, do you ever think of how much Brennan Lee Mulligan loves his friends? Because I do. You grow up saying friendship is everything. Everyone around you keeps going, no, it's about getting married, having kids, that your friends will take a back seat after that inevitability. But then you see people who have made careers out of loving their friends, and it's all okay.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I thought that was so. I think I have a lot of screenshots in here from Jim, Fantasy High Junior spoilers, because it's true. Like, it goes back to the point we make every week about Dropout's commitment to letting people like have room to grow. You couldn't get a show like this if they did not do all the time to get here. Just remembered when Hadine said, "I'm not very good at being a kid." She said it to Sandra Lynn. Like the Sandra Lynn who acted grown up too fast and whose teenagehood was taken from her by a powerful adult man who still to this day was not punished for it. Are we going to see justice for Sandra Lynn this season, Jordan? What's your prediction?
I feel like we've got too much left to do that just like has to be on the back burner.
Feels like a plot like D or E priority at this point. Yeah. But I also feel like Brennan has introduced it so much that it also, if it was a loose thread, it would be an odd loose thread to leave on the season. So I'm torn on that one. Either it's going to be explosive and lead to something else, or it's going to be like a side satisfying moment.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. Sandra Lynn deserves it.
Sandra Lynn's been through a lot with these kids. And she's got all of them living in her house with Jawbone. She deserves a little piece. Okay. I'm so not okay about this whole situation. When you think about it, Jawbone might just be the only reliable good adult Kristen's had in her life, in relation to Kristen being like, Jawbone, show me your chest, which was a great moment of improv from Allie Beardsley at the table. I thought that was a brilliant catch by Allie, again showing how quick these folks are.
Yeah. I loved also, like, we had that moment, but we also had the moment where Murph was so terrified that that Kristen was going to say the name of the dead god to Buddy Dawn. Yeah. And Bobby Dawn.
Bobby Dawn.
Yes. And like but not Murph not wanting to like break. And then I have to go talk to my friend Murph. So funny. But yeah, also like shout out to Allie. Just like such a good improviser always. But yeah, like nailed that interaction with Bobby Dawn, Dawn, excuse me. I'm just like, like that, like, and it was a gay marriage too. Like all of that, so good. Like kept the name. Kristen kept the name to herself. Perfect. Yeah.
It was very masterful by Allie. Like sometimes it's hard to tell, especially because they filmed these in such quick succession. They filmed 14 through 17 in 36 hours over Allie Beardsley's birthday. Yeah. So it's like, how much time did the players actually have to think through, I want to do this next, I want this scene to be like this, I want to drop this kind of thing. Like when you're playing a tabletop game over the span of weeks and you're doing one session and you have 7 days to think about your next thing, you can come in with a little bit more like, I think this is going to be what I'm going to try and do, or I think this might be. These guys are playing for longer than what we see on TV because they cut the bio breaks and all the different pieces and bibs and bobs. They legally, for union reasons, have to take breaks to give everyone time to breathe, and then they have to continue playing. So like the downtime to plan and plot what's happening is minimal, and you're drained, which means these moments of like improv and serious conversation and what could be plotted or not plotted ahead of time are so much more like incredible to think through from a talent perspective, because the constraint they're happening under is so friggin' hard to operate in.
Yeah.
That's my big snaps. Also, I as a light sensitivity girly pop, I feel represented by Allie Beardsley's commitment to wearing their glasses during the shooting. This is a very big Liz move.
So good.
I will be finding a pair from Madison Square Garden. That's my commitment. Okay. Awkward moment when there's two evil plans going on simultaneously at the same school. I loved this. I thought it was very, very funny.
Very good.
Very good. Murph said, this one goes out to all you people foaming at the mouth to kill a group of children being manipulated by adults they trusted. And that's in relation to Murph saying, it takes pretty incredible courage to cease to, instead of coming back, and maybe he stopped short of that.
Yeah.
Leave it to Brennan to give us the philosophical, ethical dilemma of the century through some high school hijinks.
Yeah. Of course it did. That's classic Brennan.
Classic Brennan. Okay. I'm still only halfway through the episode, but I think using the dome as a TV to show a clip from sophomore year could be the coolest use of the dome ever. Thoughts on dome use this season? We know the projectionists are incredible.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely amazing. I 100% agree. And for the Dropout Drop-In folks, I hear next season even wilder.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more about that. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger. We have a couple more here to get through. How does it feel knowing that Brennan is painting a beautiful picture for Fig's exit from the bad kids? I felt like this tweet really summarized a lot of the vibes that it's good that Brennan's honoring her desire to let Fig's story come to a rest, and the compromise of asking Emily to do junior year, player agency, doing a proper send-off. What do you think about leaving Fig behind?
Devastated, but also like, thank God she was like, yeah, I'll be here for junior year, because boy, what a bummer it would have been if it wouldn't have been Fig to learn that Porter was the bad guy. I mean, torn because I love Fig so much, but if obviously, like, if Emily's like, I'm ready for something new, let Emily go, let Fig and Ida go explore the stars together. Like, what a beautiful idea that is. love letter from
God,
Ida.
that love letter was incredible. I don't think we as a society are talking enough about the fact that the preview revealed that Fig named her horse Gerard Ney.
Well, let me just say, as someone who has seen the moment, it is actually Murph who comes up with the name, and then Fig runs with it.
This whole tweet is talking about the dynamics of all of Sandra Lynn's exes working in the same school and in proximity to each other. Shout out to @empty_junior who did this whole kind of like breakdown and barely got through it. You have Jace, Henry, Gorthalax, Bobby Dawn, Jawbone. Like, they're all sharing one teacher's lounge.
So funny. Yeah.
I would kill for a one shot, like one session sit down, and it's just the teacher's lounge of Eggfort.
So good. Yeah. I saw someone recently saying they think the big bad of senior year, which I don't know that we're getting necessarily. I've seen a lot of people already being like, when's senior year? And I'm like, let's calm down. But that the big bad has to be Eggfort, even if it's not intentional that it has to be Eggfort. And that does feel correct. That like your final fight has to be against the lunatic in charge of your school.
Absolute lunatic. Yeah. I also feel like people who grew out of, including myself, loving the Harry Potter series need to see the children defeat the principal who does not have boundaries. Like, I feel like that, like, this entire community of adults that were raised on that story need Eggfort to be the villain of this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is just about the ping pong balls. And Oisin missing the ping pong balls. I did not catch that at all.
So good. So well done.
Sinister, in fact. Sinister work from Brennan to plant that. On the banking that Fabian would not clean his house.
Yeah. And that's probably an easy one to predict on Brennan's behalf. But yeah, banking on that, I mean, also probably easy to predict that Siobhan is going to instantly fall for Oisin. Like, yeah, like... smart work all around on Brennan. Yeah.
Infuriatingly smart work from Brennan. This is about Gorgag's reaction to Porter actually being a bad teacher, which is one of my favorite moments of the whole episode, was seeing Gorgag be like, wait, I knew he was bad the whole time.
Yeah, so good. I also love it. I gave him 5s.
Yeah, lots of reaction to this week's episode, and I feel like this is the episode where the volume of fan conversation was so high because there were so many shocking revelations to react to. What do you think the conversation's going to be going into this next live episode where it's like this big battle and even crazier projections? And
right. I mean, I've already seen people saying that as exciting as that moment was in the past episode, the thing people obviously have been waiting for all season is the Allie moment that is going to make Brennan want to quit playing D&D. And we know, like, we assumed it was from the preview, and we know confirmed now in the newsletter that is happening this week. And I will say I have not gotten to that moment, so I don't know what it is. But yeah, I'm so excited for whatever that is. It was really fun. You know, I talked about the Discord and sort of the reactions because I had seen the episode already. I was kind of watching to see like what, you know, when that moment was going to hit. And like, I hopped into the Discord just to watch like the 1,000 messages as people like all caps Porter, like just like flying by as fast as possible. And it was very fun. But yeah, I mean, look, Brennan has masterfully put together, like you said, the Oisin ping pong balls, the Porter reveal, you know, everything that, you know, he has been working for is all like closing in here. And yeah, I think it's going to be incredible. I think people are going to lose their minds because I'm assuming Brennan's going to maybe not land the boat because I don't know what's going to happen with the boat in the sky, but he's going to land the plane of the story.
Land the plane at the very least.
Yeah.
I think this is going to prove to be a moment that separates Dimension 20 from what I specifically have been talking about in terms of Dimension 20 being like traditional television. Because as much plotting and planning as Brennan has done, and the projectionists have done, and the producers have done to build all of this, because of the way that tabletop role-playing games operate, player agency can flip everything on its head in a moment. It feels like that's what Allie's going to do in this moment. So I'm excited to watch it from the standpoint of how hard does it cause a scramble to spread across Brennan and his plans and everything for the remaining arc of the season.
Especially with 2 episodes after this one, like this isn't rolling a nat 20 on punching the American Dream. I don't remember who Allie punched in that season, but in the Unsleeping City, where it's like, oh well, I can reset and rebuild because we've got a weekend and then a bunch of episodes to figure out. We're in endgame stuff. And I mean, I remember going into the season, Carlos Luna said that Burrow's End was the best. I don't remember if he said it was the best acted show, but he said that this is the best actual play that's ever been filmed. And I mean, he seems to be right. We're getting these truly incredible moments of actual play. And I think we're going to get the biggest one, maybe. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest one is Porter, but the biggest actual play moment of an actual play we're getting this week, which is so exciting. Also, just a banger move to put that in the behind the scenes preview for this season. To just build that tension for 17 episodes.
Dangle that carrot in front of us, and we got all hot towards it. We were waiting for it. It was that little claps for Carlos and everyone that really planned how to get us hooked on this season. It really paid off. I love the distinction, though, that you made between the Porter reveal and this, whatever this Allie moment's going to be, because it really does pair side by side actual play and television production for me. What they did with the Porter drop is something that only pays off because it is a season 3. And earlier episodes of the Dropout Drop, and we've talked about how you need time and space to build storylines to get the max level of payoff that we're getting this season. You couldn't have done a Porter reveal in season 1, even though Calvaxis was great. There's more satisfaction to what we experienced today because Dropout continued to invest in this talent and this story and gave it this much time and space to grow. I say this over and over again because it matters, because other streamers refuse to do this. This is something that is distinctly Dropout. If you were to chart Dropout against other streamers, they're one of the only platforms committing to this. And you get something like Porter because of that commitment. That is so distinctly Dropout's path forward. So big Fallout thumbs up from Liz. Can you tell I'm on the Fallout binge right now? We're on our second time watching it. It's great.
Me too.
Oh, really? Okay. Next episode of the Dropout Drop, and it's just about Fallout. Everyone get ready. I can't wait. Jordan, what do you got coming out this week that everyone should be excited about?
TJ Dempster, the sound mixer for every single episode of Dropout that you have ever seen and will, I mean, I guess not will ever see, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Anyway, every episode of Dropout that you see, he mixes the sound for. I sat down to chat with him about Zach's ankle pop from Make Some Noise. I got the full scoop on that, and I learned just how loud Brennan Lee Mulligan truly is.
My lord. I cannot wait to hear this one. Get it here, because it's about sounds. I can't wait to hear this one. Yeah. Sound tends to be the bane of my existence. For those that don't know, one of my specific specialties is remote first production, which means I'm not in a studio with the people I produce for. I'm very much like how Jordan and I do this. So when I say sound is the bane of my existence, it's like playing a game of charades, but more accurately, it's more like trying to lead someone through a maze with a blindfold on. It's okay, find the gain button, find it. Do you see where it says gain? I want you to turn it. No, other way, little bit. That is what I do. And anyway, sound is not my calling in life. My sound people are the people that save my ass every single day. So I'm thrilled that you got this sit down, and I will be taking notes.
It's similar to the Eve interview. It's such a weird thought because, I mean, outside of the game, the reason I talked to him specifically was because of the Game Changer, because of the degradation of Deja Vu, was so much sound work that was very obvious. But, normally he's at his best when we don't recognize that he has done any work because we aren't thinking about the sound, which is such a bummer of everything's perfectly balanced. So I haven't registered that anything is wrong. That's such a bummer of a thought process, but he's so talented and makes really great music as well. So
we'll plug in the description. I'll find some links. Plug
6 missing
there we go.
On I think all platforms, but yes. Fantastic music. Look, if you're looking for vibe music, it's the way to go. It's all instrumental, all beautiful. It's not white noise, but
lo-fi
borders
working, kinda.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love a little lo-fi YouTube working string. That's my shit. I'll be listening. Links will be in the description if you want to listen too. I don't know what I got coming out this week because I'm not on a plane this week, which is odd.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. I am so excited to be on the ground, touching grass, in my car, in vehicles that are only like half a foot off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's thrilling that, if I jump in the air, that'll be the highest I get this week from the ground. So that's excellent news for me. So I don't know what's going on. I'm covering the Met Gala tonight. That'll be somewhere on the internet, and Producer Liz, if you're into that. Oh, I have some Q&As to your Q's and A's you've been triaging about how to be a professional in this industry. So I'll be posting some stuff about that. Probably just stealing more content ideas from Jordan's comments when I jump in and I'm like, oh, I know how to talk about that. I should do that. So who knows? Just comment on Jordan's stuff and I might see it and decide what I'm doing that way. And I don't know what we're talking about next week. Probably an hour on Allie Beardsley is my guess.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
And whatever Katie's going to talk about with eggs, you're going to want to talk about PowerPoint presentations next week. Come on.
I might make us do another round. We'll see. We'll see what happens next week on the Dropout Drop-In. See you there.